Hello, I'm going to talk you through making a batch or double batch of banana bread. I'm going to be making a double batch, so I will include the single batch instructions, but I will be demonstrating a double batch. So this is going to be my dry components bowl. I usually start that part first, and then I use the measuring spoons and cups from the dry components for the wet components, so that way I don't have any dry components sticking to the insides of the measuring cup. So the single batch of banana bread calls for 1.5 cups of flour. Since I'm doing a double batch, I will be putting in 3 cups of flour. You don't have to worry about sifting or packing it down. It just needs to be level, and that will be the first component in my dry bin. So here's 1 cup, 2 cups, and 3 cups. Alright, next on the dry components list, let's put that over here for now. The next item on the dry components list is going to be the 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So I'm going to pour that out over a separate cup just in case I overfill. But a 1/2 teaspoon is the, 1/2 teaspoon is the single serving. I'm going to be making a double, so I will do this twice. Yep. Okay. So, have 1. And the other one. Okay. The next item is going to be the 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And since it is going to be a double batch, I will need 2 teaspoons of baking soda. And it just needs to be level. Nothing special, doesn't need to be sifted or anything. So we're going to be doing this 4 times since I'm using the 1/2 teaspoon. And that will give us our 2 teaspoons for the double batch. Number 2, number 3, and number 4. So that's the baking soda. The next thing we're going to need is an equal amount of baking powder. I'm going to need a 1 teaspoon amount of baking powder. Double batch is going to require 2 teaspoons. I like this because it has the little leveling edge. I don't know if that's what it's intended for, but that's what I use it for. So I need 4 of these since I'm doing the 1/2 teaspoon scoops. 2, 3, 4. So that is 4 of the 1/2 teaspoons, making a total of 2 teaspoons of baking powder. So we've done salt, baking soda, baking powder, flour, and that is everything that goes into the dry components. For the next stage, I like to use a fork to lightly mix this together, kind of flatten it out so I have an even surface to work with. And now I add spices. I prefer to add, for banana bread, I prefer to add cinnamon, ginger, cloves, and nutmeg. If you prefer to not add any of those, there's nothing that says you can't. I like to add the ginger first because it is the lightest. I flatten it out a little bit. I don't have a specific measurement, I just go by sight and smell. I start with the ginger because it is the lightest and easiest to see where I've added it, so I like to add it kind of like coloring. And because this is a double batch, I'm going to do this twice as much as I normally would. But I do the same technique, and you can see how it looks yellow because I have added ginger. And next is going to be the nutmeg. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to layer it on top until it looks like nutmeg. There we go. Next is going to be the cinnamon. I'm using the Saigon cinnamon ground organic. It tends to have a stronger flavor. So if you like cinnamon, use as much as you would like. I like cinnamon. And last is cloves. Cloves is very strong, and it's also a darker color, so it makes it very easy to spot against all the other colors. Okay, so as you can tell, I've completely covered the surface in various spices. So you just go through here and fork, stir it up. And like I said, this is a double batch, but this is exactly what I do for the single batch. I just stop sooner because I smell it more quickly. There's a level of scent that I achieve with the spices that turns out really nice in the banana bread in the final product. And I kind of tilt it, make sure it's well mixed. I don't have any pockets where it's all one spice or anything. And this also helps incorporate the baking soda and the baking powder and the salt. I'll take a sniff. And I barely smell it, so it needs more spices. So again, I start with the ground ginger. And my ginger is at the bottom of the container, so it's a little sparse, more rattly. Now, fresh ginger. There we go, some good color. Okay. So next is the nutmeg. And this is also getting towards the bottom, so I might have to change out bottles. And get the other container. There we go. Alright, next is going to be the cinnamon again. You're going for an even blend of odor, so if you smell one spice more strongly than the other, you're probably wanting to dial back on it so you can bring it to an equal amount, unless you prefer a more strong flavor of one over another. And this last one was cloves, and as you can see, we're at a good color coverage. So again, bring in the fork, mix it in here, So at this point, your flour should be looking a little bit more tan color, and that would be from all the spices. And you notice there's a settling of spices amongst the bottom. That's why I turn and scoop it to the side. And it also gets, you know, you can see how sometimes it gets clumpy, and you just use the fork to break that up. And that'll keep you from biting into a piece of banana bread and getting a mouthful of nutmeg or ginger or whatever. But you'll see it. It'll be very obvious against the uniform color you're trying to achieve here. It tells you you've spread out the spices well. Alright, looks decent. And I'm going to do it again because this is a double batch. That would have been enough for a single batch. So this one I'm going to do at a heavier coat, so that way I can get through this part more quickly. So, ginger. It's a new brand for me. It's a new container, so it's a little more stuck than I would like. Smells good. Smells nice and gingery. Alright, next is the nutmeg. Okay, and we're back to the cinnamon. Okay, next is the cloves. This might be the last time with the cloves because it tends to be pretty strong. Who knows? Maybe I'll just do a light coating on this one. Alright, fork time again. Take a smell. Smells good. Alright, that might have been it. Okay, now we're going to be pausing the video so I can move over to the soft part. Okay, so I'm just using a really beat up old mixing glass bowl. There we go. So the first thing I'm going to do is soften the butter. The singular batch calls for half a cup butter. We're going to use a double batch, so a full cup of butter, which means it should be 2 sticks if I remember correctly. So I'm going to pause and get that out of the fridge because I like to keep it cold up until the last second. I will be putting it through the microwave on soften, but I'll pause and be right back. Okay, we're back. So now that we have the butter, we're going to go ahead and grab the sugar. Recipe calls for 1 cup of white sugar if you are doing a single batch. I am doing a double batch, so I'm going to need 2 cups. So 1 cup white sugar for single, 2 cups for double batch. So there's 1 and 2. The single batch recipe calls for 2 eggs. I'm going to go ahead and grab 4 out of the fridge. I'll be right back. Alright, so the original recipe calls for 2 eggs. Since I'm doubling the batch, I'm going to use 4 eggs. And if you are uncertain of your ability to keep the shells out, I would suggest cracking them into a separate bowl and then making sure no shells made it in. And then pouring it into the main mixing bowl. My eggs are wet because I like checking to make sure that they're good before I crack them open into my food that I'm currently making. There we go. And to check for egg freshness, you fill a container full of water deeper than the eggs are tall, and then you float the eggs. If the eggs float, they are bad and you should not open them. If they sink to the bottom, they are good and can be used. If they kind of stand on one end and point up instead of resting fully on the bottom, then they need to be used first. So here we are, 4 eggs. The next thing is vanilla extract. So it calls for 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. For the single serving, I will be using 2 teaspoons, but I kind of eyeball it at this point. It's just there for just like a note in the flavor, not an actual, it doesn't carry the bread, it just adds a little bit of fullness, rounds out the flavor. All right, so at this point you're going to want to mix until it's creamy. Double checking my ingredients. So butter, sugar, eggs, extract. So yeah, at this point this is where we are. It's going to be a little bit noisy, so you feel free to mute me at this point. Alright, so I don't feel any more hills of sugar at the bottom of the bowl as I drag it through. This tells me that the sugar is either evenly dispersed or it has been dissolved into it. Next is going to be the banana and the sour cream. The sour cream adds more tang to the flavor. It also provides a lot of moisture, so you don't have to worry about covering up the banana bread in the evenings after cutting it open. It will stay just as moist as it came out of the oven for at least 2 days, if it lasts that long. It doesn't last that long in this house. So I will be back with the bananas. Alright, we're back with the bananas. Bananas have been aging for a while. They are just perfect for banana bread. And yes, there's going to be a little bit of bruising and browning, but that is an indication of it needing to be used. And you can choose to add them in or not. I choose to add it in. It adds a little bit more flavor, more sweetness. So I just come through here. I would not recommend using a more green banana. When it starts developing, when it has become fully yellow and starts developing spots on the skin, that indicates that it has reached the point of where it's going beyond equal parts sugar and fiber. The more green the banana, the more fiber it has for content, less sugar. So high fiber, low sugar would be green bananas, and almost next to no fiber and almost all sugar would be towards the brown end, and that's kind of where you want to be with the banana bread. So I like to do this to help my mixer you know, get it into smaller sections. And there we go. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and throw away the skins, and then I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Got done throwing away the banana skins. Next is the sour cream. I'm using it at a ½ cup per loaf. Usually a 24-ounce container of sour cream. I like using Tillamook the best, and Thanksgiving and Christmas season tends to be anywhere between 2 loaves to 20. This container has gone towards 6 7. This will be number 6 and 7 of banana bread loaves for a 24-ounce container, and I'd say that's pretty good. I usually just eyeball it so I'm not having to dig it out of this cup container, but today for you guys I am using the measuring spoon. Alright, so we'll add it in. Alright, that'll do for now. Okay, I'm back. I'm going to mix this up so it's going to be a little noisy. Okay, so all the ingredients have been mixed into their respective bowls. Next is going to be putting the dry into the wet. And the ingredients say to slowly add your dry mix into the butter sugar blend and mix it thoroughly until it's smooth. I just don't have the patience for that, so I go a different way. I take my mix and I dump it in. And I'm going to move my blender out of the way so it's not in my way. Alright, back again with the bowl. So I'm just going to dump it in there. Try not to make a mess. Oh no, you can't really see it very well because I'm in the way. So now that I have added my dry, while the blender is, or the mixer is off, just kind of lightly push it in and do a short mush. Like try to, like I'm coaxing it into the middle. I do this so that way when I do eventually turn on the mixer, it's not going to send up this huge cloud of dry goods into my nose and then make me have to sneeze, and then I'd have to go to the bathroom and then wash my hands and then come back, and you know, I just don't want to do that. Not fun. But as you can see, the liquid batter is coming up on in the middle, on the sides. My dry goods are slowly being incorporated here, but the point where you can feel safe in turning on the mixer for short bursts is right about here. I mean, it's mostly wet on top. That'll help keep it from doing a volcano of dry goods in your face. So you just short bursts. So here we go. And then when you don't see any more pockets of dry, you can feel more assured in the decision to turn it on and leave it on. Okay, I'm back. Gonna scrape off the edges, make sure I got all the ingredients incorporated with each other, and I'm not leaving behind dry spots, but it's looking good, looking real nice. Yep, looks good. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and scrape this off. Other side doesn't look bad. Set this aside. So the next step is greasing the bread pans. I use spread butter, and because I'm making a double batch, I'm going to be using 3 of these. I just got them from the dollar store. They are slightly smaller than 9" by 4". I want to say, oh, 9 by 5s. You're supposed to use a single 9 by 5 greased. I use butter. You But a 9x5 pan should be big enough to do 1 loaf of banana bread. However, you will tend to have a bloom, and if it blooms too fast versus, you know, cooking on the inside, you'll start to have a spillover and it'll develop a crispy spot, I guess. It'll flow over, and then there'll be a lip of banana bread around the edge of the bread pan. So instead of trying to make it fit into 2 9x5 pans, I use 3, and it will come out smaller than the edge of the bread pan, but I don't get that overflow, which means I don't have a section of it burning before the rest of it cooks. There is nothing wrong with a browned, very browned top of banana bread. This recipe seems to caramelize instead of turn ashy and sooty, so it just tastes very, very sweet, very delicious. So I'm going to go ahead and butter these up and then show you what that looks like in just a few seconds. Alright, hold on. Alright, here are my 3 bread pans, all buttered up, all the way up the sides, even though I know it's not going to get up that high. Full coverage is not going to hurt it any. I have it situated on a small cookie sheet to make it more manageable to get them in and out of the oven. And I'm just going to use a cup and disperse the batter between the 3 evenly. So I will see you in a few minutes. Alright, here we are. Batter has been evenly dispersed. I've got the oven preheating at 350 degrees. And once the timer goes off for the preheat, I will go ahead and put it into the oven. So it will need to cook for 1 hour at 350. And because I'm doing a double batch, I might need to leave it in there for an extra 5 minutes. But because I'm not trying to cram them all into just 2 bread pans, it might just be sufficient to do the 1 hour. So I'll cook it for 1 hour, pull it out, and do the toothpick or butter knife test, where you insert the butter knife in and right in the middle, and then try to see if it comes out clean. If it comes out clean, it's great. You can pull it out. If it doesn't come out clean, you'll need a few more minutes. So I will update once it is done, and you can see how it turned out. All right, see you in a bit. Alright, it's been 1 hour and 3 minutes in the oven, and the butter knife has been tested in each one of these and has come out clean. So I'm going to give it a few minutes to cool off, but as you can see, it has risen. There's a slight dome and a little bit of splitting, and it smells fantastic. And to be honest, I really don't think all 3 are going to last tonight. Maybe this one will disappear tonight. So yeah, I will be back in a few minutes and show you what the bottom and the underside looks like. I like to give it between 3 and 5 minutes to cool off before I try tipping it, and I'll take a butter knife and very carefully come along the edges to separate it, and I don't drag it across. I insert and slightly twist and do that to get it to release from the sides, and then once it releases from the sides, you can tip it and it'll come out more easily. So I'll go ahead and release the sides on all 3 while it's still hot. It's a lot easier than when it's cold. So I will be back in a few minutes. Okay, I've given it a little bit of time. The pan is not so hot that I can't touch it. It is warm where the banana bread is up against the metal, but right here on the rim it's fairly cold. But you can see, or I hope you can see, just sliding the knife in there and just kind of tilting it to pull it away from the edge allows it to come away from the sides cleanly. So all I got to do now is upend it and kind of let gravity and a little bit of wiggling in the pan happen. There we go. You know, a little bit of sticking in the corner, but not too bad. Banana bread itself looks very, very golden, and the crumb looks good. And I'm gonna go ahead and move this over onto a plate. Get some butter. And go ahead and cut this open. And the edges are crispy. Oops, sorry about that. There you go. Banana bread. Fresh from the oven. Smells fabulous. I'm going to do a small curl of butter and let it melt. So let me know if you give it a try and how it turns out for you. I really hope you enjoy it.